2 weeks. Offered my friend work, drove her around, got accused of ghosting, demanded $45 for $13 in earnings. WTF just happened. Am I the antagonist in this scenario? My friend and her boyfriend think I am. Background: I have been friends with this girl, let's refer to her as May, 18, for a few years, and she is dating my cousin, whom we will call Todd, 18. We are not biologically related, but since I didn't have family growing up, I grew up with my parents' friends' children as if they were my own family. That's how often I was around them. Thus, we have always regarded each other as family, including his siblings and mine. The situation began a couple of weeks ago while I was spending a day with May. We were enjoying a girls' day when she and Todd got into an argument. All I know is that by the end of the night, he moved his belongings out of her mother's house, and they were breaking up. I want to emphasize that just the very next day, she discovered she was pregnant. While their decision regarding the baby is not my concern, they have chosen to keep the child, and I fully support that. I made it clear that I would be there for her, as I understand this is a serious and frightening situation for her, about to graduate, unemployed, and without a car. Recognizing her unemployment, I suggested that she join me in doing Instacart, as I use it as a backup when my part-time job doesn't provide enough for my expenses or when I want something non-essential. I proposed this offer 3 days after starting Instacart myself and explained that it is a contracted position, not hourly pay. We agreed that I would give her half of the earnings from each batch with a 5% deduction from her tips to cover gas for my car, which I believed to be a fair arrangement. We completed one Instacart order on a Saturday, earning a total of $13.56, including tips. Afterward, May requested that I drive her 30 minutes to her friend's graduation party, for which I wasn't invited. I agreed and drove her there, asking if I could briefly stop in to use the restroom and grab something to eat, as I had not eaten that day and had to drive 2 cities over to get home afterward. She assured me her friend, let's call her Lee, said it was fine, so I went inside, thanked Lee for her hospitality, and got something to eat and drink since it was the polite and respectful thing to do. Although I have known Lee for years because we attended school together, we have never hung out outside of school or been close. After that, May and I plan to do more Instacarts the following Monday, with Todd joining us to maximize our earnings. I clarified the agreement with him, and we settled on a split. When Monday arrived, both May and Todd wanted to join, and unexpectedly, Todd's sister, whom we'll refer to as Sarah, 17, expressed interest as well. I had no problem with this since I am also close with Sarah, and I was looking forward to spending time together as a family plus. I hadn't seen her in about a year, so we had plenty to catch up on. On that Monday, we successfully completed 3 Instacart orders, visiting 2 stores, and delivering to 3 houses for our last delivery. When I saw our earnings amounted to $55.44, I initially considered splitting it 4 ways, but Todd suggested that we shouldn't include Sarah since she didn't assist with shopping or delivery. She merely stayed in the car. Sarah was fine with this arrangement, as she understood her presence served merely as social time. Therefore, I planned to divide the earnings 3 ways among myself, May, and Todd. However, once again, Todd recommended we divide it in half, and after confirming 3 times, he insisted. Due to regulations, I could not withdraw all the money immediately because customers retain the option to retract tips if they are unsatisfied. Therefore, I withdrew the batch money, totaling $42.63, and divided it, resulting in about $20 each. I did not deduct any amount for gas expenses. They requested I stop at Panda Express for food, which I did, spending their half of the earnings on 2 meals, as each meal cost $10. It's important to highlight that I in fact did not take any gas money from them, despite having taken them to not only Panda Express but also McDonald's, Quick Trip, and 7-Eleven at their requests. 2 days later, I received a message from May expressing dissatisfaction with her payment. In my mind, it was inevitable that she would feel that way since it was she and Todd who insisted on having rather than splitting the money evenly, which would have resulted in $18.48, each of the total $55.44. She demanded I pay her what she believed she was owed, which was $45.55 for her contributions. a figure that made little sense to me considering our earnings from the 3 and stack arts and how we had all worked together. Not only did I receive a message from May, but Todd also accused me of ignoring them over a mere $20, which is entirely untrue. I was occupied at work, unable to check my phone as I work as a cashier. Eventually, I explained to them that I was working and not ghosting them, and I found it rude and disrespectful for them to accuse me, especially knowing that I always settle my debts. The following day, both of them continued to demand the $45, with May sending me a slew of messages unrelated to Instacart, including statements like, "I'm sorry I don't have 2 parents to provide me money for my excessive spending habits. I apologize for not having a car. I'm sorry I am unemployed." While I empathize that her father isn't present, I refuse to feel guilty about my own situation. I explained that the financial help I receive from my parents is a private matter that I repay entirely. I reiterated that I didn't create my financial situation and highlighted that I had also been without a car myself just 5 months prior. I managed to obtain my vehicle independently, without parental assistance, though I refrained from conveying this to her. I stood firm on my position, stating that I owed her $25.63, and that was all I would pay. She responded by claiming I had been disrespectful and apologized if I couldn't handle a little constructive criticism. The only disrespectful act was me raising my voice during a call 2 days later due to my frustration. I later apologized for that, which was more than she did. The following Sunday, she reached out to express that she missed me and wished to talk. I decided to give her another chance, replying that I missed her as well. We agreed that things had been said in the heat of the moment, and she apologized. The Tuesday after that Sunday, she invited me over to her house to hang out with her and Lee, which I accepted. At some point, I was asked to pick up spray paint for Lee despite her having a car, but I agreed as a good friend. When we returned to May's house, Lee arrived and they began preparing a Valentine's gift for their boyfriends. Since May couldn't stay in the garage due to the fumes, I went out there with Lee. Lee inquired why I hadn't added her on Snapchat, to which I candidly replied that we never really interacted, and as such, I was removing people I no longer spoke to on the app. I even noted that I hadn't added her on TikTok or Instagram, and she acknowledged my point. The next day, I happened to scroll through my Snapchat stories and noticed Lee had posted about hating people who had added her for no reason, claiming they were being fake. I was confident this post was aimed at me, given the timing of our discussion. Just this past Friday, while I was with my boyfriend, he had left for a tattoo appointment when May called, asking if I could pick her up to get food. I agreed, but insisted that it depended on the distance, as I was waiting for my boyfriend's return. Upon her confirmation that it was reasonable, I set out to pick her up. Shortly before leaving, my boyfriend informed me he was on his way home, prompting me to text May that we needed to hurry since he was only 45 minutes away. She assured me that she could manage that time frame. After getting her food, I discovered my boyfriend was only 10 minutes from my house, and May lived a mere 5 minutes away. She attempted to invite me in briefly, but I declined, explaining that I only see him once a week, sometimes twice if I am lucky, and it's always on Fridays. The subsequent Saturday, I drove an hour to visit Sarah, as she had finally relocated closer, allowing for weekend visits. I had informed May about this during our Tuesday hangout, and she asked if she and Todd could join since he wanted to visit his father. I told her that I would consult Sarah first, as I didn't want to alter her plans at the last minute. Sarah was perfectly fine with the idea, so I established a group chat with May and Todd to confirm their interest in coming along, detailing my Saturday afternoon departure and return Sunday afternoon. I did not receive any replies from either of them. When I picked up May's food on Friday, I confronted her directly about the group chat and the lack of communication. She explained it would be better to plan for another weekend, as Todd wasn't aware that I was heading down that weekend, which struck me as odd since she had been the one to mention he wanted to tag along. While I was at Sarah's, May sent me a text, stating that she felt uncomfortable around my boyfriend and believed he was controlling our time together. I responded that this assertion was entirely incorrect since I see him only once a week, sometimes twice, and if she felt that way regarding our friendship, it was for us to resolve, not anyone else. I conveyed my regret that she felt uncomfortable about him, while confirming my commitment to the relationship. My boyfriend suggested that she was exploiting my kindness and the fact that I have a car. All of this transpired within a span of 2 weeks, leaving me feeling utterly overwhelmed and depressed. I feel as if I have lost not just a friend, but family as well, because of her involvement with someone I regarded as family. It hurts to feel so mistreated, not just by them but also by Lee, who appears to be tarnishing my reputation. My boyfriend's insights seem valid. It is painful to have only him as my support system now. Sarah remains in my corner, but we don't converse daily. I seek advice on how to proceed. Should I confront them and cut ties completely, or should I opt to ghost them without explanation? I am simply exhausted from feeling manipulated. Having placed my trust in people I considered family and my best friend, resulting in isolation without any friends or family remaining in my life. Their popularity in town adds to my frustration, as it feels like no one listens to my side of the story, besides a few individuals who know what has transpired and have been involved in this mess. Story 2. OMG. I exposed my boss's shady practices before leaving for my dream job, while he lost his chance at promotion. #revenge. For a duration of 18 months, I had been working remotely, as many of us had. From a professional standpoint, this arrangement has been beneficial. I have been more effective than when I was in the office, able to work more flexible hours, and have saved a significant amount of money by eliminating my commute. My workplace had a policy that permitted those working from home to choose their own hours, provided we remained available to respond to urgent calls during core hours and completed all our tasks. That seemed reasonable to me. For 16 months, this arrangement functioned well, as previously mentioned. Then, during a few weekends, I decided to declutter the house and took photographs of all the items in good condition that we no longer needed, intending to donate them to whoever wanted them. One day, while I was working from home, I took my lunch break, prepared a quick sandwich, and posted the items I was giving away on one of those local Facebook free pages. At the time, I was unaware that one of the managers referred to as Shambles from now on from my workplace was also subscribed to that page and noticed my post. He then decided to inform the owner of the company that I was neglecting my duties and posting on Facebook during work hours. For context, this individual was not my direct supervisor, who was very relaxed as long as everything was completed on time, nor was the complaint directed at my supervisor, but rather to the owner of the company. We belong to a large organization, so there are many levels of management between myself and the owner. To make matters worse, I had been doing a significant amount of work for Shambles. He had delegated the management of entire projects to me over the past 18 months, all of which I had executed successfully, while he took considerable credit. And this was the first time in 18 months that I had posted anything on Facebook, since I rarely post. Consequently, the owner reached out to me, and to his credit, he is a decent person. The conversation went as follows: Owner, I have been informed that you are posting on Facebook during work hours. Just be prudent about it. It does not reflect well when colleagues see it. Me, I completely understand, but just to clarify, I posted that during my lunch break. Owner, I was informed that you posted it at noon. The company's lunch break is typically from 1 to 2. I did post it at noon, but that is because when I am working from home, I usually take my lunch from 12 to 1. Owner, okay, I personally do not have a problem with that, just keep your head down. As I mentioned, he is a reasonable individual. I was not genuinely in trouble, and the owner did not seem particularly concerned. However, I began to ponder, who has gone to the owner with this in the first place? To summarize, a colleague, who happened to be working on site that day, overheard that Shambles had been complaining to the owner about me and suggesting that I was frequently on social media when I should be working. I genuinely only use Facebook for messaging 99% of the time. Enter the opportunity for petty revenge. As mentioned earlier, Shambles has a tendency to delegate work to me. I never objected to this, as the work was varied and made the week more interesting. Plus, my boss did not mind since I always completed my work for him on time. However, I received no acknowledgement for this additional work. For 2 years, I managed a sub-department entirely by myself because he did not have time to handle it. I did not receive any additional compensation for it, but I enjoyed the experience of management with a good team. Subsequently, every time Shambles approached me with an issue, I would respond that I was extremely busy, but would attempt to assist if I had the opportunity. The projects he attempted to delegate to me were promptly declined, asserting that I was fully occupied with my primary responsibilities. Regarding that sub-department I managed, we will get to that. In the ensuing months, Shambles began to miss deadlines, issues arose with ongoing projects that he had neglected, and employees complained that whenever they approached him with a problem, it remained unresolved. I realized at this juncture that I had essentially been performing his duties for years. Enough of that. I arranged a meeting with my supervisor to present my case for promotion, or rather, why I should have been promoted a long time ago. I highlighted all the successful projects I had managed as well as the sub-department I had overseen for 2 years. He completely agreed and stated that he would bring it up with his superior. Now, somehow, I do not know how, but during my next meeting with my boss's supervisor, Shambles was also present. He is at the same level within the organization as my boss's supervisor. Feeling slightly overwhelmed but determined, I proceeded to articulate my arguments to both of them. Shambles allowed me to finish before asserting that I lacked sufficient knowledge about our work to manage effectively, that I did not possess the required interpersonal skills, and then he stated verbatim, "Besides, people here do not respect you. They respect me. I know I am a good manager. If you truly think about it, you know you would not be." I cannot recall what else was discussed afterward, but I felt completely demoralized. My boss's supervisor approached me afterwards and remarked that Shambles is rather difficult to deal with, but regrettably, he has the support of higher management, so what he says carries considerable weight, making it challenging to oppose him. I conveyed to my boss's supervisor that if this is the situation, I would seek employment elsewhere. He sighed and added, "I do not blame you. Cue the opportunity for professional retaliation. Throughout the time it took me to search for and apply for new positions, I contemplated how I could get back at Shambles. He had exploited my skills for years and was now obstructing my promotion. I had already ceased working on his assignments, and his projects were deteriorating rapidly, but I felt the need for something more impactful. The subsequent details could warrant a separate post entirely, so I have summarized them for brevity. If you require more context, I can elaborate later. 1. I am an accredited internal auditor for our quality systems. 2. I requested to be assigned a couple of final audits before my departure, to assist them. 3. I performed these audits, using my in-depth understanding of Shambles projects to uncover every single problem I could find. 4. Several individuals also disliked Shambles and provided me with additional incriminating information about him. 5. Someone revealed to me that Shambles had been forging signatures and circumventing multiple company procedures to enhance his key performance indicators. 6. I compiled the report, including substantial evidence, and submitted it. 7. The report was flagged at the highest level due to its serious implications. 8. Shambles faced serious consequences. I wish I could conclude this narrative by saying Shambles was terminated and forced to resort to desperate measures, but he managed to keep his position, using all his connections to maintain his status. However, I subsequently learned that he was in line for a significant promotion, essentially, a rapid ascent to a high-ranking role managing entire divisions. That did not occur, though, as his declining performance coupled with a damning audit illustrating all his deficiencies meant he was effectively told that he would not advance beyond his current role, and he was fortunate to still have a job. He remains with the company, and I have been informed that his inflated ego has been notably deflated. As for me, I would love to say I secured a superior job with an impressive salary increase. That is partially true. I chose to pursue my dream job, literally, a lifelong aspiration, in a completely different field. My previous experience worked in my favor, and although I took a modest pay cut, I have never found work to be more enjoyable. Oh, and regarding that sub-department I was overseeing, they recognized that upon my departure, Shambles would take over their management again. Thus, during my final month with the company, I provided them all with tutorials on how to search for jobs and succeed in interviews, having previously worked in recruitment. Since then, I have received updates from several of them indicating that they secured better positions and thanked me in part for my guidance. It may not be the ideal conclusion, but I am genuinely content with the outcome.